Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episode 3 of Villainous. So, last time we had ghosts. We had a haunted house, and a hero who was trying to destroy it, which would not only kill the house, which was sentient and alive itself, but would also leave all the other ghosts inhabiting it without a place to, stay. And so our villains had to come in and help them basically scare off the hero. And in the end, it was actually the bear who did so. Now, I noted this before, but I want to mention it again here. It's ironic to me that these villains seem to be doing good things almost. I compared this world that this series takes place in. I made a comparison that it's similar to something like The Boys, though obviously not as gruesome and whatnot, in that the heroes don't seem to actually be that virtuous and heroic most of the time. And that the villains aren't always as, typically evil as you would think. And that seems to continue to be the case. Because with the first episode, we had Penumbra, who just wanted to stop this one hero from, constantly exposing her to the sun, which would literally kill her. On top of that, he was actively bragging about the fact that he was beating on her, and even said that that's the only reason that he hasn't sent her to prison, because he enjoys beating on her so much. And it's like, oh my god, that is really fucked up. That's really fucked up. Because that's... And the sad thing is, there are things like that in real life. But we see that again in episode 2, where the hero is trying to tear down this house, and from what we can tell, presumably knowing that these ghosts are using it as their home and that the house is alive and everything. He's not afraid of them, which makes him the only hero who's a real threat to them at this point. But it shows that he's the one in the wrong here. Clearly. These things are not very, hard to understand. In both of the first 2 episodes, the villains, the ones who have hired the Black Hat organization, have actually been the victims. And the heroes have been, more villainous, ironically enough. So it's really interesting to me that they're going this route with the world that they're building here. And I wonder if this is going to come to a head at all by the end of the season. As I've stated, one of the big reasons I've gotten into this series is I do know of one character who I'm still waiting to see, Miss Heed. I do know she's a hero, and I've seen 1 or 2 small clips. I don't know when she comes into play or anything, but I'm interested to see exactly how she's handled in regards to how the other heroes in this have been handled so far, and what the entire story is going to be with that. I'm definitely interested. And I wonder what else we're going to get, because I don't know. I went into this knowing pretty much nothing about this. Like, I've seen some character designs before, and I knew of Miss Heed. That's it. Really, I don't know anything about the story. I don't know anything about more characters. I don't know where this goes. And mind you, it is an episodic series. I mean, it's only 6 episodes, and each episode is like around 11 minutes long. So obviously, they're not going to go too in depth with too much. And I still am not entirely sure if there's season 2 already in the works or not. Um, but there is potential for this world. And I've been thinking about it. I mentioned before that I probably wouldn't do the shorts and everything, but now I'm wondering if maybe I should. Because I did notice on a site I use, the shorts are up there. I'm wondering if maybe after I finish the series, I should just like knock out the shorts in maybe one video and just check them out to maybe get some more world building, some more stuff and everything to give me context to this world and everything, and maybe even the characters. I don't know what the shorts are about or what they're focused on or anything. I don't know any information about them. I just know they exist. I don't even know if all of them are on the site I use. But I'm thinking maybe it might be a good idea to tackle those as well. We'll see. Oh, excuse me. We'll see. I will determine at a later point when we're closer to the end. I mean, with this, we're halfway through the series for now, but still. When we're reaching the end, I'll actually determine at that point. And it would just be interesting to get to learn more. Now, I know the shorts and all were made before the actual season 1, so I don't know exactly how they're going to connect it all. It's probably just going to be more just episodic things, random like little bits of information or little shenanigans, random stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, who knows? But yeah, maybe we'll get to that. I'm not entirely sure. So I'm just interested to see what this episode is. I, as usual, don't know the title or anything, so excuse me, I don't know why I'm yawning so much. I mean, I'm usually pretty much always tired, but still. We're just going to get on with this, hope for the best, and see what this episode has in store. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, when I was making the thumbnail, I went back and I looked through the episode and everything. And yeah, like, it's very noticeable. Like, there's a certain few shots, especially. Like, there's one where when she's wrestling the guy, Demencia has him, like, on her shoulders, and she has, like, a very certain pose, and she has muscle definition. Like, legitimate muscle definition. Again, she's not, like, super buff, but she is fit, very much so. And I kind of dig that, because there's so many shows and comics and games and stuff where you have these characters who would naturally be very fit, but are often not portrayed as such. They're often portrayed as just very average looking, very average in terms of, you know, physical appearance and fitness. And it's like, there's some cases where it's like that just doesn't really make sense. Like a great example of this would be in My Hero Academia. Let's be completely honest here. The girls of My Hero Academia should have muscles. These are characters who actively physically train their bodies constantly because it's literally part of their hero work. It's what they are supposed to do. And there are, I think, a couple characters, a couple female characters in My Hero Academia who do have muscles. I think Mirko does. Let me check to be sure, because I know there's fan art of Mirko that's very muscle heavy, but I haven't seen her a lot in the show. She's only been in a few points. Yeah, she has legitimate muscle definition. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. Probably not, but I have to kind of angle it. But you can kind of see when you look at pictures of her, she has legitimate muscles. And you could say, like, yeah, these girls, like Uraraka and Momo and all of them, it's like, sometimes their powers aren't super heavy into that stuff, but Uraraka trained with Gunhead in martial arts, like a very physical type of training. And you're telling me that she doesn't have muscles? That she's not buff? I mean, again, I'm not saying like she has to be like super buff, like not even necessarily Mirko's level. But the idea that she doesn't have muscles, or characters like that in general, not just in My Hero, but in other shows too, other content. Harley Quinn should have muscles. Like, let's be honest, Harley Quinn is a world-class gymnast. She is extremely physically active. Like, that's kind of one of her things. She should have muscle definition. And yet she's pretty much always portrayed as not having it. Wonder Woman is another phenomenal example of this. Wonder Woman is almost always portrayed as not having muscles. At least not notable muscles, you know? Like, let me see if I can find a picture here. There are some comics and stuff that do have her with muscles, and some art for sure, but if you actually look at it, most of the time she doesn't actually have like notable musculature. Okay, I'm getting a lot of live action shots. That's not what I'm looking for exactly. I just want to see the picture. Can you just zoom in on the picture? No, I don't want Google Lens. Trying to navigate this bullshit. Okay. So here is some comic art of Wonder Woman. Again, you're not going to be able to see it that well. I'm trying to angle it in a way that you can see it. But as you can see, there's not really much of any musculature on it. There's a little tiny bit on the arms, but the legs are actually kind of a little thicker in that art. And a lot of the Wonder Woman art portrays her that way. And most of it portrays her as having like the tiniest bit of muscle, but not really much of any. Something more akin to this. I don't know if you could see that well. But like you can see, there's like a tiny bit of muscle definition on like the arms and everything, but she's not buff. Wonder Woman should be buff, though. Like if you think about her character. And yet she's almost never portrayed as such. And you kind of have to ask why. It's because of, let's be honest, it's because of stereotypes and roles that women in media are often forced to portray. In media, oftentimes women are drawn to be sexy more than anything. They're drawn to be physically appealing, and to be fair, in most cases in media and like animation and whatnot, comics and everything, like a lot of characters have to be drawn to be physically appealing, because that's literally how you sell a series. It's a major factor in selling a series, no matter, again, if it's a animation, if it's a comic, a video game. um, they have to make the characters, unless it's the point that they're not, they have to make the characters attractive to some degree. But like, they oftentimes don't view women being buff as that kind of attractiveness that they're using to sell. They don't think it sells as well. And then you have like proof otherwise. You have Encanto, in which the most popular character is by and far Luisa. Disney expected Isabella to be the most popular character in Encanto and did all this merchandising for her, and then they had to fix that after the fact when Luisa ended up being the most popular character. They expected it to be Isabella because she's so stereotypically beautiful. She's just that standard of beauty, and that's what they expected would sell. And when Luisa, who's not stereotypically standardly beautiful, although I think she's very beautiful, and I think most fans would agree, but who's very heavily muscled, who has this large build and everything, when she ends up being the most popular, thanks to her character and everything, it's like she ends up surprising Disney in that regard. And the fans end up surprising Disney. And it's like, people like buff women, believe it or not. That's actually a really common thing. So it's always kind of, I think even outside of just the fact that I'm attracted to buff women, I always like it when shows portray that. Especially with characters who would reasonably be buff to some degree. Again, not necessarily like super heavily, but Demencia in this, getting back on point, because this ramble was all for the point of talking about Demencia. Getting on point, Demencia would reasonably, thinking about it, be buff. It's something I just didn't think about before. But it's kind of like the same like with Harley Quinn, or characters like that, where it's like, yeah, she's super active. She's physically active. And it's reasonable that she would have some muscle definition. And she does, and we get to see that. And like I said, the one shot you see like during the wrestling match, when she has him on her shoulder, she has her arms like up like this because she's like holding him up. And you can see the muscle definition on her arms and on her back and everything. During most of the shots where it shows her midsection, you can see some muscle definition on her midsection. She has definition, and I love that. I just love seeing that kind of thing in media. And it's the same as with seeing larger women in media, like overweight, because it's a great point of representation that is honestly needed more. A lot of media has to stop pretending that all women are like Barbie dolls, when that's very much not the case. We need different body shape and size representation for all kinds of women and men. Though men often get it a lot easier. Men get that body difference representation really easily, and they have for a long time. So that's why I very much emphasize it with women. And non-binary people just need representation, period. Like, let's just give them representation, period. But that's a different argument. But even the ones that we do get non-binary representation are often portrayed in a very specific way, let's be honest. And that's a little rude as well. But yeah, it's like, I love seeing that kind of thing. So I know this was a bit of a long ramble just on that topic, but I kind of wanted to, in a way, express why I'm always so excited about seeing female characters with musculature. Why that always excites me. Again, it's beyond just the horniness thing. It's beyond just the fact that I am very physically attracted to buff girls. It's that we don't see that often because a lot of media tends to view that as not being conventionally attractive, and so they don't want to portray that. And yes, it's gotten better in recent years and stuff, but still, it's still something that needs work. So I did want to just go on a little bit of a rant with that, explain and everything. So I'm sorry if if you got bored hearing me ramble on about muscular girls and shit. Let's actually talk about the episode. So, this lady in a Dia de los Muertos mask comes to Black Hat looking to hire him to defeat in the ring this big name luchador. Obviously, Black Mask is not going to get involved himself, so he sends Demencia to do it. And she is really good at it, which honestly kind of fits. Like, if any one of them would be a wrestler, it would be Demencia. It just works. Her personality, her character, like, again, now knowing her physical attributes as well, it's like, yeah, I could see her as a wrestler. In fact, there are actually some wrestlers in real life who have kind of had a similar, like, kind of crazy personality to their characters. So I could very much see her as a wrestler. But she defeats the guy and takes off the mask, which there's another mask underneath. We find out that this first mask is a parasitic living organism that takes over the host's body. That the wrestler who was underneath was the husband of the woman who had hired them. And that she was just trying to free him. It's another case of the people who are hiring Black Mask not actually being bad guys, but them, like, just really wanting good stuff for themselves. It's like, this lady just wanted to rescue her husband. It's like, that's sweet. That's genuinely nice. And this is actually the first time where where someone has actually actively gone to Black Hat without him basically recruiting them. Because in the first two episodes, he appeared to Penumbra on the TV. Second episode, he appeared on the TV to Amelia and the other ghosts. The first two episodes, Black Hat saw what was going on with them. He appeared to them and convinced them to hire him. In this one, this lady, she goes to them. She actively seeks Black Hat out on her own without him having to go to her. That is definitely interesting. I wonder if we're going to see more of that going forward. Comparative to, Black Hat finding his clients. But yeah, we get to see more of Black Hat, speaking of being very legitimately scary in this episode, as he even appears above the ring and everything in his ship to watch as the match goes on and everything. He's actually there, which is really interesting. So obviously, like I said, Demencia wins. She removes the parasitic mask from him, but it ends up taking control of her. And so Black Cat's like, okay, Flug, bring her in. And Flug is like, excuse me? Me? And obviously he can't really argue with Black Hat, so he tries and fails and gets the shit beat out of him. Yeah. It was always going to end that way. And so afterwards, Black Hat himself comes down to the ring and is like, Demencia, remove that stupid mask. And she's like, yes, boss, removes it. Just without hesitation, without any issue. And I that's hilarious that it was so easy for her to do that. No one else could do that, but because her absolute love and lust for Black Cat is so strong, his voice, his command was able to break through the parasitic control, and she's just like, yeah, okay, rips off. And I love how the mask is like kind of begging her afterwards. It's like, come on, we were great, let's do this again. And even like in the credits, like you see the mask trying to convince everyone to join forces. I love that joke as well, by the way. It's like, you're a bear, stop talking like a YouTuber. It's like, what? um, and yeah, apparently this series is going to have some references to other Cartoon Network properties. Last episode had some. This episode we saw Eris from Billy and Mandy. The goddess Eris, she was eating some elote in the stands while watching the match. We also saw that lizard lady who I believe is from OKKO. And other characters in the stands might have also been from properties as well. It's really interesting because you know what this kind of reminds me of? You know those old, the old cartoons that Cartoon Network used to do back in the day? Where it's like just, they show a bunch of like cartoon pilots and stuff. This reminds me of that, as if this series was a cartoon pilot. Like, I think even some of those old ones back in the day even featured other characters sometimes uh from other series. And it's like, I believe sometimes as well, like you'd see bumpers on Cartoon Network that would feature characters like crossing over with each other. Like you'd see Courage and Scooby-Doo in some bumpers with each other. You'd see like Billy and Mandy crossing over with the Powerpuff Girls and stuff like that. And it's like, that's kind of what this makes me think of. One of those old classic Cartoon Network cartoons. In a really weird way, it kind of makes me think of, like, it almost feels like it's from the era of Billy and Mandy. And yet it's new. It just came out last year. They even had that thing at the end, which was uh, a little nod to the medical workers who have been, you know, doing everything during this pandemic and everything. So it's like, it's wild to think about that this is a brand new series, and that it feels so classic. And in a very good way, obviously, in a very good way. I'm really impressed. Each episode we go into this, I'm genuinely impressed. I genuinely believe this series is great. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best show out there or anything. I mean, you have cartoons currently going like The Owl House and Ghost of Mile McGee and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say this rivals those, because it's a very different series. It's a very different type of show. Because it has that classic feeling, it's not serialized. It's episodic. It's short form. It's very quick and snappy, very formulaic. So yeah, it's not the same kind of thing. It's not going to have that same kind of appeal. But the fact that it's still this enjoyable and this good, to where you really get into all of these characters, you really enjoy all of these characters, and the situations they get into, that's genuinely impressive. It's genuinely really impressive and really good. And yeah, I'm into this. I'm very much invested. I'm definitely going to be looking up fan art and stuff. Definitely going to be checking out to see maybe other people talking about this. Hell, like I've already done a piece of art myself on Miss Heed. Maybe I'll do some for others. Heck, after seeing this episode, I'll probably end up doing one for Demencia in her wrestler outfit. I'm really in on this series. Again, not the best series or anything that I've seen, but it's genuinely something really kind of special. And each character, it's like they have such well-defined personalities and characters to them. Flug is a very nervous, timid, but also smart uh, doctor. He's a scientist. He's not very good in the field, but he knows what he's doing part of the time. Demencia is just crazy. She's crazy. She's kooky. She loves Black Hat. Black Hat himself is absolutely terrifying. He's threatening. He's very smart and calculating. You have the bear whose name is a number, like a code name basically, and I don't remember what it was, but Flug called him Fluffy. Who's just he's a goofy, silly mascot character. He's funny. You don't really understand what's going through his head, but you're not really supposed to. You understand these characters, and it's great. They all have well-defined personalities. I'm genuinely happy that I ended up finding these episodes, that I found a link on Mega to these episodes, because I wanted to see this already. I wanted to check out the series already, and now that I have, I love it. I just genuinely love it. I really hope that a season 2 does eventually come, and I hope they get a longer order, more than 6 episodes. I hope they're able to get that going. But I'm thinking after this, I honestly think I'm probably going to end up watching the shorts as well, just because I want more. But yeah, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode of Villainous? And thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.